Good afternoon and welcome to this month's tarot spread review. I have to start, I'm laughing at myself because usually what I do is I pick the spread from the book 365 Tarot Spreads for the first Sunday of the month, and then that's what I follow through with the rest of the month. However, somewhere or another, I made the mistake, and instead of doing the October 5th tarot spread that was in the book, I did the September 5th. We're going to keep going with this spread because I've already done the reading with it, which I will put the link in the comments. But just to kind of let you know that these things happen, right? Like I'm honestly certain that there's a reason why this was the spread that I ended up with. And so sometimes that's a really big thing to keep in mind, especially when you're looking for a tarot spread for something that's you're looking for guidance and clarity on. And to I will never say I picked the wrong spread. However, the spread that I chose was different from the date I was doing it on. We'll put it that way. But it really is actually a good spread. And so I am very, very glad for this fortuitous mistake. Now, the spread that I did do the reading on last week was, should I start this project spread? And because this is our review, we're going to start jumping in right away. We're going to ignore the fact that this was the September 5th as opposed to the October 5th spread and look at, sometimes it's timing, right? Like sometimes the timing of a spread is really important to tune into. And I will honestly say I've had moments where I've done a reading and I read a card for a different, like I read the meaning of a card for a different card than one was in the spread. I believe the one that pops to mind was I was doing a reading for a friend and she had the Queen of Swords, but to me I saw and I interpreted for the Queen of Cups, and the reading went really well. It wasn't until after she had had her reading I was putting the cards away that I'm like, oops. So oopses are really a sign from the universe of saying this is what you need to pay attention to. And it will often sometimes put our plans askew. Having said that, let's go back to this one. So should I start this project spread? One of the things with this spread, there's several things with this particular spread that I had troubles with. And the first one is the title. And it's the use of the word should. I have worked very hard to try to eliminate using should in my vocabulary. And when it does pop up, I really try to pay attention to where that conditioning is so strong that this word is still popping out naturally. Because should is a word that is loaded with expectation, it's loaded with judgment, and it's loaded with all kinds of things outside of us. Should is a very condition-based word. When we say, should I start this project? Who are we asking, right? Like you're going like, well, should I do this or should I do that? You're asking someone else instead of saying to yourself, how do I feel about starting this project? What are some of the things that are important to me about this project? You're saying should, and the moment that you use should, there's judgment in there. And so if you're going to do a spread like that, that has should or those kinds of guilt-inducing or shame-inducing words within the title of the spread, one of the first things you can do is just remove the word. And because it's like, should I start this project spread, you can just change it into starting a new project spread, just to kind of keep it bias free, judgment free, and really open it up to, I have a new project I want to work on, and I just want clarity on what is coming up for me at this time in regards to this project. Now, I will again iterate that this was the September 5th, and so the historical information that they give here is related to back then. Now, I really like the history of this spread because what they say is on this day, Sarah Winchester, owner of the famed Winchester House and heiress to the Winchester gun fortune, died on this day in 1922. So the Winchester House, a project she undertook after a medium told her to do so, was under construction 24 hours a day for 38 years. The Victorian house, located in California, is renowned for its rambling-sized rooms and lack of master building plan. So if anybody's had the opportunity to see the Winchester Mansion, then you would know it's a very convoluted passageways, and there was no rhyme or reason to how it was built or why it was built the way that it was. I love the fact that Rose Red, Stephen King's horror story, was based on the Winchester Mansion. And if you've ever had the opportunity to either watch the movie or read the book, it's really fantastic how people can get so obsessed with these ideas of never-ending projects. And we all have them, right? We have that never-ending to-do list that just goes on and on and on. Can be very convoluted, and people look at us and go, why do you have that? Well, just because, right? So one of the things that I like about this is bringing this idea of the convolutedness and the meaning behind the project, which goes back to why the term of should, it's not about whether you should or shouldn't do a project, it's how it feels to you. And if you know why and you understand why, then that's the core of everything. They also state that Winchester's fascination with the number 13 reflects everywhere in the house. So bathroom number 13 has 13 windows. The kitchen sink has 13 drain holes. And she even modified a 12 light gas chandelier to hold 13 lights. And so one of the things that I kind of chuckled at when I was looking at this reading when I was going to do it is the fact that they really focused on the number 13. There are a lot of different 13s within the tarot deck, but the card that they connected directly to the spread is the Four of Pentacles. And they say the Four of Pentacles shows a man clinging to his money while a city is being built up behind him. He clings to objects as if it will save him from the inevitable fate of death. Yet no one, not even Sarah Winchester, with her massive amounts of money and never-ending house construction or decoration, can escape the fate awaiting all of us. And I believe the story from the medium was, as long as the house is under construction, you will never die, kind of thing. And so it's quite possible, and I think that's kind of the myth that goes into Rose Red, is that she died, like the original construction of Rose Red, the woman who was building the house just disappeared and never was to be seen again. And the story is that she was actually absorbed by Rose Red and was continuing the construction into the afterlife. And anyone that kind of got caught in Rose Red was basically part of the never-ending construction. And so although her physical body died, spiritually she continued into the afterlife with this never-ending construction going on. So the summation that they have of this spread says, are you debating the beginning of a major project? And projects can look appealing at the onset, then diminish in fun and usefulness. This spread examines whether or not to embark upon a new project. And see, that's very clear, right? Like, you're looking at whether or not to start a project. And just looking at it from that point, like, it's very clear. We want to know if the project that we want to start, if this is a good time to start the project, if there's relevance in this project for us. Now, this was a 7-card spread in the cards, and as I said, in last week's video, the cards are set as a staircase. So you have one down at the bottom, and then each one is set going higher and higher, as if it's a staircase building, one building upon the other. Now, I really did struggle with the questions. I did enjoy doing the reading last week, but I really did struggle with the questions that were set out for the different cards in this spread. And I think one of the reasons for it was because, like a lot of things, there's different ways that you can approach it. You could look at it as, what is something that I need to know about this project that I want to start? You could look at it and say, looking at timing, what do I need to know about the timing of the project? There's a lot of different ways that you can look at how to do this. And so when we're looking at, starting a project, then you have to look at how you want to approach the reading. So the first card that they had, so the first question they had is this project worth doing? And this is something I'm going to say here and just kind of point back to it through a lot of the questions in here. This is a yes/no question. And I personally have issues myself with doing a yes no question, because a yes no question doesn't give you any depth, it doesn't give you any clarity, it's just a straight yes or no. And again, it's permission based, right? So if you're asking, is this project worth doing, you're asking someone else, right? Because when you're asking the cards, you're asking the cards, is this project worth doing? And if the cards that you get give you an inclination of no, but you're not delving deeper into the why, then it's really, really shortchanging a lot of what you could get from the reading. And so you could take this question and look at it. So instead of saying, is this project worth doing, asking a question along the lines of, what about this project is worthwhile? What is it about this project that means doing it now is going to be important? And looking at the the value of your actions, the value of your energy, the value of your resources going into this project that you want to start. The second question is, will the results yield a lasting benefit? Again, it's a yes, no question. The other issue I have with this question is that it's asking a future defined state, right? So if I start this project now, will the results yield lasting benefits? The future is never set. And so for me, whenever I do a reading, if there's any indication of two future events coming into place, it's an understanding that whatever you read at this moment gives you the opportunity to make choices. So if you like what comes out, then you keep going. If you dislike, you can make changes. The future's never set. So to ask a question that's asking, so if I do this, am I guaranteed this outcome? You're automatically setting yourself up for possible disappointment, because your actions, your choices, as well as the actions and choices of other people, keep the future in a fluid flux state. And so you could then look at it and say, what are some of the lasting benefits I could experience from this project? And that way, you're looking at choice, you're opening it up to possibilities. And when you kind of play through the story and connect the cards and everything, you might find that there might be several benefits to going through this project, and knowing that there are possibilities as opposed to definite outcomes. The third card that they have, the third question they have is, does the process or result justify the time spent? Again, another yes no question. It's also a double question, right? So you have, does the process or the result justify the time spent? So now you're asking two different questions, which can lead out to confusion, because maybe the process is good, but the result is less than what you want. So you could break it up into two different questions and say, what do I need to know about the processes around this project? And then, like, I personally would never say, do the results justify the time spent? Because one of the things that you're doing is you're before you even start the project, you're putting a value judgment on it, right? So what the results might bring, and I'll say this for the next question as well, because the two questions kind of go together. So the fourth question is, does the process or result, again, the same thing, justify the money spent? So it's asking if my time and my money spent in this project is justifiable. And to me, if you're going through anything and you learn something from it, or if you enjoy something, or if you grow from it, then it doesn't matter what the outcome is. Everything is justifiable. Everything is worth what you're doing. And so for both of these questions, I would definitely break them up into different questions. So you could ask, right? Like if you're looking at the process or result justify time spent, then you can ask a question is like, how can I create a process that best uses my time? How can I create a process that best utilizes my money and my resources? How can I create a process in this project, right, that best uses, add whatever you want, right? Like you can put it in, if you're looking at your network, your social network, if you're looking at your energy, if you're looking at your health, you could put anything like that into it and just be asking like how can I build a process for this project that will best use da 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 da. And that's a much better question to me because it gives you the opportunity to get a lot more information and a lot more detail. Because if you get when you have these questions, right? Like, does it justify my time? Does it justify my money? And the cards kind of, you interpret the cards or you feel the cards are leading to a no, then you might say, well, I'm not going to do this project. But maybe it's not about your time. Maybe it's not about your money as to why this project's important. Maybe it's a spiritual fulfillment that you're going to get. Maybe it's a community that you're going to build. Maybe there's just something other than time and money, right? Like there's such an emphasis on time and money. And most of the time, time and money are the least things that we need to be worrying about when we're starting a new project. The next card that we have, so we did kind of 3 and 4 together. So 5 says, what is at the core of what I want to accomplish? This is definitely, considering the questions we've had so far, this is definitely one of the best questions in this spread. And you could keep it at this if you want. And you could also look at what is a core driver that's bringing this project forward now, or how can I understand why this project is important to me at this time? Looking at all of the reasons why now is the time for this project and what you need to know in regards to this, because a lot of one of the things that I like about using like the core is that it helps you to know if you're in alignment, if you're in integrity with this project. So asking, you know, looking and saying like, how can I best be in integrity with this project? How can I remain aligned while working on this project? So those are some other ways that you could look at this question. The next question brings us back to a yes or no question. Will I enjoy the process? I wouldn't even have to pull a card to answer this because I can tell you that in most projects, there's going to be moments where you're going to love it and there's going to be moments where you're going to hate it. A project that's really meant to bring growth and development and a lot of reflection and understanding of yourself is going to have moments where you're like, oh my God, this is great. And moments where you're like, why am I doing this to myself? Right. So I think that a question like that is, it's unfair to the project because now you're basing everything on the pleasure aspect of it. And we all know, so for instance, when I look at, so I recently started doing like workout routines and I'm like, do I want to start this project? Do I want to do like these routines? And if I ask my question, like, will I enjoy the process? I can tell you right now, I'd say no, because there's a lot of times where I'm doing my routines and I'm going, this is horrible. I don't know why I'm doing it. And then about half an hour to an hour after it, like I feel relaxed and I feel calm and I feel grounded. And I'm like going, so then if I ask myself, like, well, okay, I enjoy it now. I enjoy the outcome. And so the process may not be enjoyable, but the outcome or the goal may be. And so to ask, am I going to enjoy this process? And if you get cards that lead you to no, you're not going to enjoy this process, then you're going to go into the project already with a negativity bias that's going to have you expecting that it's going to be a horrible thing. And then you're not going to put all your effort into it. You're not going to put all your energy. You're not going to put all your love and your passion into it. And then it's going to just, the project itself is going to suffer from that. So one of the things you could do is you could just take this question out altogether. Another thing that you could do is you could rework the question in order to bring more of what it is that you want to get out of the process, right? So if you want to enjoy the process, you could ask, how can I make this process the most enjoyable? But maybe you don't want to get the enjoyment out of it. Maybe you want to learn something from it. So then you could say, what is the best way for me to learn the most that I can during this process? So this kind of goes back to the time and money spent where you're asking again, like, how can I get whatever the quality is, whatever the emotion or the feeling is out of this process, so that at the end of the project, I can say, you know what? Yes, I can feel that I really did grow. I can feel that I really did enjoy, that I really loved what I was doing. And then the last card that we have is, what is the result of my effort? And to ask a question like, what is the result of my effort? Sometimes I look at those questions for me personally as a no-brainer, right? Like, what is the result of my effort? Well, if you put a lot of effort into it, you're going to get a better result than if you put little to no effort into it. And so that's a question less for the cards and more for yourself to say, how important is this project and how much effort do you want to put into it, right? How much are you willing to put into what it is that you're wanting to manifest, what you're wanting to create, what you're wanting to, bring into being with this project? So when you look at what is the result of my effort, again, this is a question that you could take out altogether and just leave it at, 5 cards. Like, you could take the 6th card out, you could take the 7th card out and have just a 5-card spread of looking at it. If you wanted to keep the 7 cards and you wanted to work with this question, one of the ways that you could do it is, let me think about this. I guess it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at results, right? So if you take the keyword out of the question, so the keyword to me would be the what is the result of this project, right? You could then ask a question along the lines of, how can I best receive an outcome, or how can I best put my efforts into this project to have a favorable outcome at the end, right? Because again, what you want to do is you want to create questions that allow for open-endedness at the end. When you ask a question that says, how can I have this outcome? Maybe that outcome that you want isn't what's in the cards. Maybe the universe has a different outcome in mind for you and is asking you to just trust and have faith, right? So you could even say that, like, how can I best have faith during the process, right? How can I disconnect myself from the results that I'm anticipating, right? Because that's what this spread is all about. Is it's like, I'm going to ask this question about a project that I want to do, and I already have a predisposition idea of how it is I want it to work. And you're asking the cards to basically hold up what it is that you're already thinking. And so I think, like, when you're looking at the last question, to ask, like, what's the best way that I can disconnect myself from expected outcomes so that I can enjoy the process of this project? So I think that's probably some of the best ways to, rework the questions and to look at it. And we're going to play around with a little bit of this next week when we take the spread and we do our first variation of it. So I look forward to seeing you at the variation next week. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will see you again next time. Take care.